Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to our first day of classroom session. Can everybody hear me okay? If not, just send me a comment in the live chat and I'll make sure my microphone's working. Okay, I think I turned it on. All right. Okay, I think we're good. All right, should be unmuted now. Okay, so my name is Kathryn Nieves. I am a special education teacher in Sparta Middle School in Sparta, New Jersey, which is like Northwest New Jersey. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is how to get started with Google Classroom. So whether you're a first-time user or you are someone who has used it in the past and just wants a quick refresher, this will be perfect for you for the upcoming school year. So I'm going to take you through how to set up your classroom, and then I'm also going to go through different tips and tricks that I've learned from using Classroom with my classes. So, all right, let's get started. And if you have any questions as we're going along, just put them in the live chat and I will respond to them at the very end. So what is Google Classroom, first of all? It is a platform that teachers can use to interact with students. So what generally happens is teachers create different classrooms, digital classrooms, for their students. Their students enroll, and then they can assign tests and quizzes and homework and projects, questions, bell ringers, exit tickets, anything like that, send out announcements, and all of their students will receive it. It also allows the teacher to have a feedback session going with the students as they work on different assignments. So it's like a digital space that kind of takes the classroom and puts it in like a digital format. It allows you to go paperless, it's immediate, and it's fairly easy to use. So the first thing we're going to go over is how to create a class and how to invite your students. So when you log into classroom.google.com, this is the screen that pops up when you're logged in through your school domain. If you've never used Classroom before, you would not have any classrooms set up. If you have, you may see your classrooms from the previous years. So what you can do is go over to the right-hand corner and you'll see the little plus button. There are two options when you click on that. It's Join Class or Create Class. So from the teacher's perspective, you're going to want to create your class. And I try to recommend creating different classes for the different periods that you have, or if you're at the elementary level, for the different subject areas that you're teaching, just to make it a little bit more organized. I found that creating one class for all of my language arts classes is very difficult after a while. So I kind of like to keep them separate in their own space. From the student perspective, when they log in, they would click the plus button and click Join Class to join your class. So Create is for you to create each of your individual classes, and they'll all pop up on the screen. And then Join Class is for the students. So what's nice is now that teachers can display their class code, which you receive when you create your first Google Classroom. When you click on the Students tab, there's a little box in the left-hand corner. You can kind of see it down here. And it has a unique class code that you would give to your students so that when they click Join Class, they punch it in and they're ready to go. So before now, the code was kind of just really small at the bottom and you would have to write it on the board or project it in a different way. Now you have the option when you click on the Students tab to click the drop-down menu and hit Display. And then you get this really nice box right on the screen so your students can see it, type the code in on their device, and then they're logged into your classroom. It's a lot easier to go through this process rather than type in all of your students' emails and send them requests to join your classroom, especially if you have a couple hundred students that you're responsible for. So this is kind of the easiest way to do it when you're first starting back to school, to kind of get the students to type in the code and then they're automatically enrolled in your classroom. So as you create individual classes, there is a folder set up in your Google Drive that's connected to that classroom. So if you go into My Drive, there's a little folder that says Classroom, and then if you click on that, everything underneath, like they have right here in the example, is all the classrooms that you've ever been enrolled in or you've ever opened. So in my case, I have some classrooms that I am a part of because I'm a staff member, and then it's all my classrooms that I've ever had while I was using Google Classroom. So what's nice about that is you can click on the folder for the individual class, you can open up different assignments, and then write in your drive are all the student assignments that were completed, or the template that you assigned to them through an assignment, but it kind of keeps everything organized. It's immediate. You don't have to create the folder yourself. As soon as you create the classroom, it's automatically up there for you. It also does that for your students as well. So when they go on to the next year, they will still, even if you archive your classroom, still have access to everything that they've done with you. But obviously it would be their work only, not the entire student population that you would have in your drive. Okay, so now we can talk about creating different assignments. So when you actually start your classroom and you set up your nice little theme at the top and you're ready to start posting assignments, you can click in the bottom right-hand corner. There's a plus button. When you click on that, you have 3 different options for creation. You can create a question, which I tend to use for do now type questions or exit tickets or some quick feedback to see where the students are and how they're doing. You can create an assignment, which is typically where you would put different documents that they're going to make a copy of, or you're making a copy of for them, or something they're going to edit and then turn in. And then you can create an announcement, which doesn't have any assignment attached to it. It's just a reminder that maybe a test is coming up or something like that. So that is where you could create, that's where you start to create the assignments. What's nice about the questions and the assignments are that they have on the sidebar for the teacher view, the total number of students in your class, and it says how many are done and how many are not done. So you can kind of see who did the work and who did not. And that does not pertain to announcements, because that's only for things that the students will be turning in. So I was really excited about last year when Google rolled out the differentiation option, is that before this, you could only assign assignments or questions to your entire class of students. So up there it says all students, and all students were always checked off. Now you can go in and select individual students. So from a differentiation perspective, you could assign different tasks to different students at the same time, and nobody would ever know. So let's say you have 3 different versions of a test. You could assign the first version to 4 students, the second one to 6 students, and then the last one to your remaining students. And the students would have no idea there was a different version of the test going around. I like to use that in my special ed environment just because the students have so many different needs that it really allows me to differentiate for each of them. And it's really anonymous, which is nice. There's no more of that passing out different tests to different students. They see on their stream only the assignment given to them, and there's no indication that there's anything else going around. From the teacher perspective, you do see all 3 assignments, but if you assign it to, say, 4 students, it would only be within that assignment, those 4 students. So it's not like all 20-something of your students are coming up under that one assignment. It's just those 4. So it's kind of nice to see the difference between them. It's also good for group discussions. If you create a question and use the differentiation tool to select different students, you can have them have a discussion between each other without the other students being involved. For example, if they're working on a book chat or a group assignment that only requires them to interact with each other, that's kind of nice too, and I've used the tool for that. So that's how you would set up and assign different assignments to your students. And it all pops up in your stream from the most recent to the oldest at the bottom. You can rearrange it by using the 3 dots in the corner and moving different assignments to the top if you need to. So after you've assigned an assignment, and let's say either the students are creating their own template to add, or you're giving them a template and made a copy for everybody, all of their work is held within that one assignment. So what you can do is you can click on the individual student and see everything they've attached to that document. If it's a doc or a slide presentation or something like that, you can make comments and give feedback. You can give private comments that the students can then reply to. This is where my students tend to, when they're at home, ask me questions that I can get back to them easily about. And since it's a private discussion, nobody else sees it. And that's pretty nice for them. You can also see then who's done, who's not done. You can assign grades accordingly. You don't have to assign grades. It might be an ungraded assignment that just indicates whether or not they did it. but you can also adjust the point increments as needed. So it doesn't always have to be 100 like it is up here. So within each assignment, you can see each individual student's work. What's nice now is that you can also see the entire span of work that one student has completed in your class, which is going to be great for meetings and things like that with parents and or conferences where you want to pull up all of the students' work, just their work and nobody else's. When you go into the Students tab, what you can do now is click on the individual student name, and you'll see every single assignment that that student has ever completed in your class. You'll see their grade, you'll see all the attachments, you'll see what's missing. So if you instantly want to pull up for a parent during a meeting, things that are missing, or even for the student, you can just pull it up, filter it by missing, and then it shows all the assignments that they have not completed. It also, again, shows you all of their grades, so they can kind of figure out where their grade is going. From the student view, they can also see everything that they've done, but they do not see everybody else's. They just see their assignments, what's missing, what's not missing, and their grades. So prior to last year, it was difficult to kind of communicate with parents through Google Classroom. It was only Google Education email accounts that were associated with Google Classroom, so parents did not have access unless they were using or going through their student's account or the child's account. So now what you can do is activate guardian or parent summaries. What you do is you would go into the Students tab where your classroom code normally is, and you can turn off or turn on parent summaries. If you turn it on, the parent can then sign up to either receive a daily alert with their child's work or a weekly summary. What it indicates for the parent is what's coming up. So if something, maybe a project is coming or a test or something like that is due, that would show up on the parent feed. It also tells them a summary of what they've been doing in class. So it kind of gives them a gauge of what they want to talk about with their child when they get home. So you can see different assignments, different questions, different tasks, and it kind of keeps them in the loop with everything that you are doing in the classroom. A parent can deactivate this at any point in time, and you as the teacher can turn it off and on as well if you do not want the parents to get the option of having a guardian summary. And that would be for all their classes as well. It might not just be for your class. Like I'm on a team with a couple different subject areas. So if I turn it on as the language arts teacher, but the math teacher does not, and the science and social studies do, they would receive everything from social studies, science, and language arts, but not for the math, where it was not turned on, which is kind of nice too. So it's a big group email of all the classes and the subjects the students have. So now I'm going to go through some of my tips. The things that I've come across when I've been using Google Classroom with my students that I really think is helpful to somebody who might be just getting started with Google Classroom, or maybe if you haven't and you're just kind of refreshing yourself, maybe these might be new things that you can try out too in your Google Classroom. So I think that the tagging the posts and your curriculum is really important. The option when you create an assignment or a question or an announcement to kind of have that topic along the bottom. Because what it does for you is create a sidebar on the left-hand side of Google Classroom with all of your different tags. So students can start to filter the assignments, and you can, as the teacher, based on topic. So you can do that in a couple of different ways. You could break it down by maybe unit, so students can know where to click when they want to review something or they want to study. I usually break it up into things like literary analysis, poetry, nonfiction, expository, or argument, so that the students kind of know where to go. I also have a section that's called Digital Notebook, where my students know no matter where we are on the stream, they click on their Digital Notebook tag, and it instantly brings them to their digital notebook that they are using for language arts throughout the entire year. And that's the only thing in that tag. But it kind of saves you as the teacher from having to keep moving that assignment that they're going to reuse over and over again to the top of the stream. You could also use it to tag different tasks that they're doing, anything that kind of helps you as the teacher and the students kind of access the information quickly. So instead of strolling through the entire stream, they can click on the tag along the left-hand sidebar, and they are instantly transported to a list of all of the assignments, announcements, and questions associated with that topic. I love the About section, and I feel like it's either overutilized or underutilized. So the About section is great for things that you want your students to access all year long. So templates, so like science, if you have a template that you like the students to make a copy of when they do lab reports, you could put that in there. I gamified my classroom last year, so I kept all of the gamification information in there for the students, their leaderboard, everything like that, so they knew instantly where to go and look at that, because that was something they used all year. I've linked No Red Ink and things like that my students always use on a weekly basis, my YouTube channel for flipped classroom videos. Basically, anything that your students are going to need to readily access during the school year should be kept in the About section. If it's something you're only going to use once or twice, I wouldn't recommend putting it in there because it does get kind of complicated and long after a while. So it's just easier to keep everything nice and organized. I keep them grouped together. If you notice, like, gamification is separate from the No Red Ink tab and things like that. So that's kind of been very helpful to my students because they know if it's something they use all the time, like our book checkout form, they know instantly where to go and where to look for that. And if you're the teacher who, like, I don't have my own classroom normally, so I'm usually traveling around. So it's kind of nice to have everything that you would normally keep like spread out for your students to access the resources in one space for them so they instantly know where to go and everything becomes kind of digital for them. So one of the things that I also like to do with the assignments is I like to break down longer assignments and have my students turn it in more times before the actual final grade. So in this case, I was creating a hyperdoc that my students had a month and a half to complete because they were reading a novel. So I gave them due dates that I wanted them to submit 4 other times throughout the year. And what Google Classroom kind of does for you is I had the original due date set up there. So it says May 31st, but I signed it way back in the end of April. So my students knew the due dates in their mind. And as I was getting them turned in, so the initial time when I created it, it just said done and not done. Right here is the options. So I could see, okay, 11 of my students turned it in, 1 did not, and they say they're done. I can revise it and give feedback and return it to them, and then they can still go back and resubmit it again, which is nice from a feedback perspective, especially if you're in a field where it's not a one and done shot and you like to give feedback, like language arts and things like that, where you're writing and you want to revise and work with the students, or if you just want to break down a long-term assignment so that students kind of have checkpoints, so you're making sure they're staying on track. They do come up with this option here where it says, okay, now of the 12 students that I have to return to 12. Now 1 is done again with the next part of the assignment. Now I can go in and review it and return it again. So that's kind of nice from the teacher perspective of being able to kind of manage and give feedback during longer assignments. And Google Classroom keeps track of that for you while still remaining under the due date that I had originally set. So the stream comments have always been a topic of discussion, I feel like, in faculty meetings and things like that. There have been positive and negatives with the stream comments. I love them, and I allow my students to make comments and post things to our Google Classroom stream to kind of promote that collaborative learning environment. It is something that you have to get used to, and you have to set the expectations for the students that their posts will be appropriate. That's kind of one of our classroom rules, is making sure that our Google stream comments are appropriate to school. So what you can do to turn that off and on is you go into the Students tab right below where you have your classroom code, and above the Guardian email, you have the option to select how students can interact on Google Classroom. You can say they can make only comments. So if you post an assignment, they can make a comment underneath the assignment asking a question that the entire class can see. You can set it so that the students can make a post and comment. So in addition to making comments underneath your posts, they can also share something with the class. Or you can set it so that the students can't do anything but complete assignments and answer questions, and only you as the teacher can post and make comments. That's a personal preference. I like to keep the option open so my students can post and comment, just because as we go on with projects and research, I like to have my students sometimes share what they do. So I like to have them make their own posts. I do like a lot of discussions and comments, so I keep the comment option open. You can change that at any point in time. It's not permanent. So if you feel like your students need to have that option shut off for a brief period of time, you can do that. You can also set it by individual students. So based on how their performance is, you can shut off or on student comment options by on an individual basis. So it's not just a one and done deal for all students. But again, that's done through the Students tab. My final tip would be to make sure you get the app and the extension. The Share to Classroom extension works on Google Chrome, and you get it through the Chrome Web Store. And what it kind of does is it allows you to, say you're reading an article online and you think, oh, this is an awesome article for my students to read. You hit the extension and it comes with a drop down of all your classes you're enrolled in or that you are the teacher in. And you are able to select what classes you want to share that article to. So then the article and the link gets sent automatically to your Google Classroom page so your students can see it. The app is for your phone, and it's really nice. I like it. My students love it. I'm at the middle school level. So I think from like a middle school and up perspective, it's really nice to have the students have it because it kind of like removes the need to have other reminding systems in place. Because if you post an announcement at home, they get an automatic notification on their phone through the app. They can also check their work on the app. I know some of my students like to do their flipped homework through the app itself. A lot of my students ended up getting docs and slides on their phone as well and started doing their homework assignments through their phone instead of their computer when their computer wasn't working. So it's kind of just a nice option. And from the teacher perspective, you can also receive instant student comments to your phone. So you know if it's later at night and your students are having an issue, you kind of know that going in for the next day because you have a notification on your phone. Okay, so if you have any questions about anything that I discussed or any ideas you want to share, just throw it into the stream. I'm going to take a look at it now, and I'm going to answer any questions that you have. I'm going to go through, go all the way back up to the top. Just reading through some of them. Okay, so there's a question about assigning tests through Classroom. I've done two options with that. I've done just Google Docs, and again, I'm language arts, so I mean, I don't have a lot of cheating issues because if students have the exact same work, you would generally realize. But for Google Forms, I haven't had students share them. You do have the option when you assign a Google Doc for them and make a copy for everyone, or a Google slide, or if you're doing an assessment that way, if you go through the settings, you can turn off the option for anybody else to share the document. So I kind of have done that for people in my district when they've suspected cheating. You can see, you can go into the settings tab and there's a box that comes up, and then you can select only owner can share and make copies of it. That way, only you as the owner of the document have the right to go in and share that document with other people. The students cannot share it themselves, which is kind of nice. You can also go into the Drive and you can click on the info button in your Drive for an assignment that maybe a student has completed if you suspect them of cheating, and you can see whether or not they have shared or interacted with anybody else on that document. So that's kind of good too from like an assessment perspective if you're worried about cheating. And Google Forms works pretty well too for that. How do the students see their missing items? From the student view, if they go into their, from their students tab, they can see all of the assignments that they have missing and everything like that. As of right now, I don't think there's a gradebook option. I've been doing everything kind of like just copying it over into my gradebook because our gradebook is Genesis, so I have to keep going back and forth. But if anybody knows of a better way to do that, that would be awesome. I have a question about using Google Classroom for gamification. I did that this year. I'm looking into it for next year again. It was tough on the teacher end. It was a lot of upkeep. I had a class shared Google Slides where I assigned their badges when they did different achievements and things like that. I made the badges through Google Drawings. I posted announcements when people leveled up through Google Classroom. We kept track of their points through a Google Sheet that we kept in the About section that I updated once a week. It's a lot of work on the teacher end, but the Google tools really worked well with it. Any apps that work within Classroom? There's a whole bunch of them. So basically what I found is that any app that creates a folder or connects to your Google Drive has the capacity for adding to Google Classroom. So my students do projects. If it's an app like WeVideo or Powtoon or I think it's MindMeister for mind maps and things like that. There's a bunch of math ones too. It's like Google SketchUp and things like that. If it has a file stored within your Google Drive, you have the capacity to upload it to Google Classroom. And it still pops up within that assignment. So even if students use different apps, it all comes still in that one assignment. Can you update or edit slides after you shared them with your students? Not if you made a copy for all of them. It's only if you say you create one big Google slide and you say everybody has access to that one slide presentation, then it instantly updates. The same with docs. But once you've made a copy for each student, you can't go back and edit and just have everything edited for all the students. You have to edit them individually. For the math apps, I've gone through the Chrome Web Store to find them. I don't teach math normally, but I can try to get some. I can try to find some. I know there's one there's a geometry one. I can't remember what it is right now. That's good for like drawing shapes and things like that. I'm trying to think. The SketchUp one is good for the 3D things. I have to find some. I've been going through the web store and kind of just searching because math is not my forte, but that's what other people in my district have used. There's a really good app where you kind of write on the surface of something and it recognizes your handwriting and transfers it into a Google Doc as a formula, but I can't remember what that is right now. I'm trying to think. Are there any other questions that anybody else has? Or did I miss answering any question? Okay, well, that's everything that I wanted to share. So I hope that that kind of helped and gave a little bit of a refresher of different things you can do with Google Classroom going in to your new school year, or if your school year is already just started. But if you have any other questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me because I'll try to come up with the best answer that I can. And thank you for tuning in. I had a good time sharing with everybody.